I have seen many people confuse victory with leverage. That mistake is expensive in business, and it is catastrophic in war. A man can win the argument in the meeting and still lose the company. A general can win the battle in the sky and still lose the war on the ground. A president can announce victory on television and still be trapped by the one thing he never truly controlled. That is what I think is happening. Now, America and Israel have hit Iran very hard. There is no honest way to deny that Iranian air defenses have been damaged, missile launchers have been destroyed, senior leaders have been killed, ships have been sunk. Air superiority belongs to the United States and Israel on the map of military power. That looks like dominance, but the dangerous thing about this conflict is that there are two wars happening at the same time. The first war is the air war against Iran. America and Israel are winning that war. The second war is Iran's war against the global economy, and America is not winning that one. That second war runs through the Strait of Hormuz. For decades, every American president understood the same unpleasant fact: Iran could not defeat the United States in a normal war, but Iran did not need to defeat the United States. Iran only needed to make Hormuz unsafe enough that ships, insurers, and energy buyers would start behaving as if the strait were closed. That is a very different kind of weapon. It is not a tank. It is not a battleship. It is not even a missile by itself. It is geography combined with fear. Hormuz is narrow, crowded, and surrounded by territory Iran can use. Tankers do not need to be sunk every day for the market to panic. One mine, one drone, one missile, one burning ship on the evening news, and the cost of moving oil through that passage changes immediately. Insurance companies do not price courage, they price risk. Captains do not get paid to be heroes, they get paid to deliver cargo. That is why Iran's position is more powerful than it looks. Even after losing ships, launchers, and commanders, Iran can still threaten the one thing that matters most to the world economy, the safe movement of energy. And that is where the miscalculation sits. The gamble seems to have been that overwhelming air power would break Iran before Iran could turn Hormuz into a weapon. That was the theory. Strike hard enough, fast enough, and the regime either collapses or bends before the economic weapon bites. But the regime did not collapse and Hormuz did bite. Once that happened, the war changed character. It stopped being a quick punishment campaign and became a contest of endurance. Iran no longer has to win in the American sense. It had to survive long enough for the world economy to start screaming. That is an easier job than many people in Washington want to admit. Every day, Hormuz remains disrupted. Oil and gas stay under pressure. Every day, oil stays high. Transportation costs rise. Every day, transportation costs rise. Businesses pass the cost along. Then inflation moves through the economy the way water moves through a cracked ceiling. At first, it is a stain. Then it spreads. Then everyone notices the room is damaged. Before the war, oil was far lower. After the closure pressure, prices move sharply higher. That is not just a number on a trading screen. Oil is inside everything. It is inside diesel, shipping, fertilizer, plastics, air travel, food distribution, and the cost of turning raw materials into finished goods. You do not have to own an oil company to be hurt by oil. If energy rises enough, it becomes a tax on the whole economy. That is why this problem becomes political very quickly. A president can explain strategy, he can blame Iran, he can talk about national security, but a family paying more for gasoline and groceries does not grade the speech. They grade the bill, and if oil keeps moving toward levels that threaten recession, the pressure shifts. At first, the pressure is on Iran. Then the pressure starts moving toward Washington. That is the trap. Iran has built a war plan around making the pain move. It knows it cannot match American technology. It knows it cannot control the air. It knows it cannot fight carrier groups directly. So it turns to the one card it does have, the ability to keep a narrow waterway dangerous enough that markets behave irrationally and governments lose patience. Bombs can destroy buildings. They cannot destroy geography. That sentence is the center of this whole crisis. America can destroy more launchers. It can hit more bunkers. It can kill more commanders. But if Iran can still create fear in Hormuz with drones, mines, small boats, hidden launchers, or even the credible possibility of an attack, the economic war continues. This is why the easy language of victory is so dangerous. When leaders say Iran's navy has been destroyed, they may be right in a narrow sense. But Iran does not need a navy in the traditional sense to keep Hormuz unstable. A coastline, mountains, tunnels, caves, drones, mines, and patience are enough to keep the market nervous. And patience is often the cheapest weapon in a war of attrition. The United States, by contrast, is spending expensive things very quickly. Cruise missiles, interceptors, carrier deployments, flight hours, maintenance cycles, crews, fuel, political capital, and time. Those are not infinite. Every missile fired in the Middle East is one less missile available somewhere else until it is replaced. Every carrier tied to this crisis is not freely available in the Western Pacific. Every week of operations burns money and readiness that cannot be restored with a press conference. This is how a quick war becomes an inventory problem. In business, you can run out of cash even while your sales look strong. In war, you can run out of strategic flexibility even while your Air Force keeps winning missions. That is what makes this so uncomfortable. The more America bombs, the more it proves it can punish Iran. But if punishment does not open Hormuz, the punishment does not solve the main problem. It only deepens the commitment, then the choices get worse. One choice is negotiation, but if Iran is still holding Hormuz, negotiation happens under Iranian leverage. That means Iran asks for terms that look like victory for Tehran and humiliation for Washington. Another choice is to do nothing. Declare victory, stop the air campaign, and move on. But that does not work if Hormuz remains disrupted. And the global economy continues paying the price. You cannot walk away from the fire while the smoke is entering every house in the neighborhood. The third choice is escalation. Try to take away Iran's leverage by force. That sounds simple until you ask what it actually means. A full invasion of Iran would be a giant and terrible undertaking. Iran is not Iraq. It is larger, more mountainous, more populous, and harder to occupy. Anyone who imagines it as a quick replay of 2003 is not thinking clearly. A true regime change ground war would require a scale of force and political commitment that America does not appear prepared to accept. So the tempting idea becomes a limited ground campaign. Take an island, seize a key facility, capture a bargaining chip, show Iran that America can put boots on the ground without marching to Tehran. But limited operations have a bad habit. They are limited only until the other side responds. One proposal is to seize Iran's enriched uranium. That would be dramatic. It would let Washington say the nuclear danger has been reduced, but if the uranium is deep inside Iran, under tunnels and rubble, surrounded by hostile territory, the mission becomes extremely risky. Even if it succeeds, it does not solve Hormuz. Iran can still keep the strait dangerous. Another proposal is to seize Karg Island, the heart of Iran's oil exports. That sounds more practical because it is closer to the Gulf and easier to reach. But ask the basic question, what problem does it solve? If the purpose of the war is to calm oil markets, destroying or seizing Iran's main export hub may remove even more oil from the market. It may raise prices further. It may also create casualties, damage infrastructure, and give Iran another reason to keep the strait closed. Worse, Karg Island is not Hormuz. Taking it does not eliminate Iran's ability to fire drones, lay mines, or create fear in the strait. Then there are the islands near Hormuz, including disputed islands that Iran controls and the UAE claims. Seizing them might sound politically cleaner. It might allow air defenses to be placed closer to the shipping lanes. It might reduce some Iranian angles of attack, but it is still a ground operation against Iranian-held territory. It still risks escalation, and it still may not stop drones launched from deeper inside Iran. That is the hard truth. To truly remove Iran's ability to threaten Hormuz, America would need not just air superiority, but durable control over coastline, islands, surveillance zones, air defenses, and maritime routes across a very difficult theater. That begins to look less like a raid and more like an open-ended commitment. Open-ended commitments are where great powers get old. They begin with confidence, they continue with justification, they end with exhaustion. This is why I think the comparison to Ukraine is not foolish. Russia expected a short war and found itself in an attritional contest where the weaker side survived long enough to change the cost structure. America risks a different version of that same disease. Not because Iran is Ukraine and not because America is Russia, but because the original assumption was speed and the emerging reality is endurance. Speed favors the side with more firepower. Endurance can favor the side with the better pressure point. Iran's pressure point is not Washington. It is the global economy. And the global economy is impatient. If oil stays high, if gas rises, if inflation returns, if recession fears grow, if tankers cannot move normally, if Gulf production takes months to restart even after a deal, the political pressure to end the war will become enormous. Iran knows this. That is why it can make demands that look unreasonable. It believes time is not entirely against it. The country is being damaged, but the world is also being damaged. Iran's bet is that America will become more afraid of global economic pain than Iran is afraid of additional bombing. That is a grim calculation, but it is not irrational in investing. The worst position is not losing money today. The worst position is being forced to sell at the wrong time because someone else controls your liquidity. In this war, Hormuz is liquidity. It is the exit door for energy. Iran is standing near that door with enough tools to keep everyone nervous. America has overwhelming power in the room, but the door is narrow and the person near the door has leverage. That is why this may become one of the worst strategic decisions in modern American history. Not because America cannot hurt Iran, it clearly can, but because the decision appears to have underestimated the one thing Iran could still hurt back: the global economy. A good decision accounts for the opponent as strongest remaining card. A bad decision assumes that because your hand is stronger overall, the other player's best card will not matter, but in some games, one card is enough. Hormuz is that card. If America negotiates now, it may look like it failed to achieve its aims. If it escalates, it may bleed resources, widen the war, and still fail to open the strait securely. If it waits, the economic pain compounds. None of those paths is attractive. That is how, the original gamble went wrong. A wise man does not judge a decision only by whether it was bold. Many foolish decisions are bold. He judges it by whether the decision created more good options or fewer. This war has created fewer. And when a country with America's power finds itself choosing between concession, recession, and escalation, the issue is no longer whether it can win battles. The issue is whether it understood the war it was starting right now. Iran is losing the air war, but America is discovering that the war it needs to win is not in the air. It is in the narrow waterway where geography, fear, oil, inflation, and political time all meet. That is Hormuz. And Hormuz is why a war that was supposed to prove American dominance may end up proving the limits of it.